Hey everybody, welcome to Next Level Power BI with embedded Power Apps. My name is Mats Necker. I hope you had a great conference so far. I want to thank a lot to all the organizers of DynamicsCon and all the sponsors. I had a great time here with all the support I've been giving. I also want, of course, to thank all the people who voted for the session. I'm super excited to be here, and I hope you will enjoy it as much as I do at the moment. And yeah, with that, I want to start in. Maybe a few words about myself. I'm Mats Necker. I'm from Hamburg, Germany. I've worked with Microsoft BizApps now for a little bit over 10 years. 3 years ago, I co-founded a company with sole focus back then on Dynamics CRM. Now it's a Power Platform. I worked there as a CTO, but also solution architect, developer, consultants. So I kind of like to look in a lot of different pieces. And well, if you want to get in contact with me, there's one great thing. We have the chat here. So if you have any questions during my session, please put them in chat, because at the end we will have 10 to 15 minutes of live Q&A. And it would be great if you have the session, just put them in chat, then I can address them later on. Obviously, if you want to connect outside of the session, you can do that as well. You can reach me on Twitter. You can also reach me on my blog. Also, all the content I'm showing you today in this session will also be published there. You can obviously reach me on LinkedIn, but let's use the chance here. Since we have the Q&A at the end, I would definitely like to hear feedback from you. How did you like it? What questions do we have? So let's use that last 10 minutes for that. Okay, with that, so what I'm going to what do I want to show today, or what do I want to talk with you again? As I said, I want to focus on Power BI and how I think using Power BI together with Power Apps and Power Automate can bring it to a whole nother level, can make it a greater user experiences and solve maybe more challenges than what you previously thought you could do with that. So in order to do so, I want to take a look at the Power Platform, obviously on Power BI, but also the other components and what different strengths they have and how when we combine them, we get a whole new, or as I would say, the next level experience with apps. After that, I want to show you the technical possibilities we have at the moment out of the box. So to show you, okay, this is the starting point when you want to start embedding Power Apps to Power BI. And then, of course, I want to spend most time doing a demo where we'll actually build a small use case. We start with Power BI, embed a Power App in that. And then, as I said, there will be the Q&A at the end. So remember, if you have questions, just put them in the chat, and I will definitely address them at the end. Also, it doesn't just have to be questions. I'm also really happy for feedback, comments, all that kind of stuff. Okay, I hope you are excited for this one. Let's start. First of all, Power Platform. The different strengths of the Power Platform. Because, or why did I put this in? I like this slide here a lot. It shows basically what is the Power Platform, basically, because Power Platform can be a really abstract concept, and to be honest, it can be quite huge nowadays. So Microsoft has done a lot of investment here and built a great product, but it's also a big product. So let's look at this. Basically, what we have here, I would say it's like two different layers. The top layer being Power BI for visualization, for business analytics, Power Apps for building apps, classical apps like Canvas, Model, Portal. We have Power Automate for all kind of automation, not just flows anymore. There's a lot more to it. We have the new kid on the block, Power Virtual Agents. That's what I say, basically the components of the first layer. What's great about the Power Platform, that we have the same foundation or second layer below that. That's all the data connectors. We have the AI builder, we have the Dataverse. And the great thing is that all these components on the first layer, they all share the foundation. And actually, why am I highlighting this so much is because this actually makes it a lot easier to embed these different components with each other. Today, of course, this could be a session for like a 1-week workshop, I would say. Today, we're focusing on one thing in particular. It's the Power BI Power Apps integration. I will talk a bit about the Power Apps integration because it's tightly connected to Power Apps or can be an alternative. But I probably won't have enough time to show it as well. But I want to at least address it in a bit. Okay, taking one step back when I talk about this, maybe this gave you an idea. Or when I was looking at the slide, this was always what I would say, right? Well, there are a lot of building blocks, components right now in the Power Platform. As I said, Microsoft built a huge product. It's getting updates basically weekly. So we have already a lot of building blocks, moving blocks we can use to build experiences for our customers, for our users. But that's not all. Basically, then we have a lot of partners who are building third-party apps, third-party components. We have the awesome community. A lot of those are actually at this DynamicsCon and who are building a lot of stuff, actually building a lot of that open source, sharing it with each other. So there's even more blocks. And my opinion is that the real strength of the Power Platform, that comes when you combine these different blocks. Because obviously, when you have a few blocks and you start reusing them, you can do a lot. But if you want to have a really great experience for your users, customers, you will get there if you actually combine these building blocks. That's when you kind of like, or that's for me, what in a maker. A maker has worked a lot with, there's this huge tool set we have. Which tools, which blocks do I use for the challenge I have at the moment or for the goal I want to reach? And these embedding stories, like embedding Power Apps and Power BI, which I'm focusing on today, they are actually kind of like the glue which holds all these different blocks together and helps us create exactly these experiences. With that being said, I wanted to look into the blocks a bit. Doing it really quickly, for example, start with Power BI. Power BI for me is all these interactive visualizations. It's actually a lot of visualization options you have there. When you look at a screenshot or when you go to Google and just Google for Power BI dashboards, you will see a huge variety of different ways of displaying data or interacting with data. And especially the interactive part, it's what I really like about it. So it's not just a printed report in digital, but it actually has a lot of digital filtering and so on. But that's not all. It's on the one hand the display, but also it has the powerful, immensely powerful data aggregation, data transformation capabilities. So from a lot of different data sources, you can get the data aggregated, transform it, and get it in the format you want to or need to visualize it in a purposeful way. But that being said, it's immensely powerful, but it's meant basically as a one-way direction. So you get the data from the sources, you transform it, and you visualize it. That's basically what Power BI does. That's its main focus, and that's what it's good at. And it's good that it's focusing on that. I will get later on how we can address this. Also, which is great, and which is actually kind of like a common or wet line through all the a wet thread through all the different components, is that what you see is what you get editor. So basically, if you start playing around, you see directly what's the result of the one I'm building here. Let's look in the next block, Power Apps. Specifically, in this case, Canvas apps. Why I'm talking only about Canvas apps? Because at this point, the embedding story for Power BI, I can only use Canvas apps. But that's okay, because Canvas apps actually follow the same logic as Power BI when it comes to design. I was talking about this, what you see is what you get editor on Power BI. Actually, Power Apps, Canvas apps have the same philosophy. So they have also an editor which works on the same principles, and you start with the design of the app, and you have complete freedom of how you want to structure, design it. And this is again where the Power Platform with these different layers comes in. We have the same data connectors as in Power BI. A few are different, but the core is the same, and I can do the same read, but I can also do write operations. So not just consuming the data, but I can actually create data, update data, and work with data. That's awesome stuff. And maybe that's why I hinted at the Power BI being the one way way of working with data. Power Apps actually has it in both ways. And now when we think about embedding, that's obviously going to create some opportunity for us. The next one, Power Automate. Again, with Power Automate, everything automation. In this case, when we talk about the automation in Power BI, we mostly talk about the cloud flows. So we have different type of triggers triggering some kind of workflow logic, being kind of like on conditions. You can branch out. You can use a lot of data connectors. Again, Power Platform, you have the same foundation for Power Automate as well. You can do reads, you can do writes, you can use or trigger specific actions, and you also have a graphical editor there. I'm mentioning the editor a lot because I feel like from a maker perspective, obviously we can't expect people to learn like completely different ways of creating apps and then embedding them together. But the nice thing about the Power Platform is that it's always this very graphical, what you see is what you get type of creating these experiences, which actually helps a lot when you then have the task of embed them together. Okay, I took here the picture from the first slide again, kind of like the graphic of the Power Platform. I kind of like stripped it down a bit to, I would say, the most important parts which I'm covering today. So we have Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, and then we have the data connector Dataverse. How do we bring that together? And for that, I want to go to kind of what technical possibilities or capabilities do we have right now out of the box? What is Microsoft actually giving us for us to work with? Yeah, and the first one, and that's probably the main one we're talking about today, is the Power BI Power Apps visual. So that is a visual like any other visual you would use in Power BI. And this one is actually for embedding a Power App. You see it there in the red box, I put it there. And it's an official Microsoft visual. It's completely supported. It's in general availability. And you can use it to create new Canvas apps or reuse existing Canvas apps. But the best part about it, well, the most awesome part about it is what you see in the GIF. Basically, when you interact with your Power BI report, remember that was one of the things I said, well, that's where Power BI really shines. It's one of the strengths of Power BI that I have this interactivity. This interactivity works as well when I embed a Power App. So the Power Apps is context aware. The Power App knows what's going on in the report, and I can react on that in the Power App. Here, the example is I click on an opportunity, and then it updates the Power App. Actually, I want to build something similar in the demo later on. I will go into more detail there, why I think this is awesome. But yeah, this is probably, I think, the main reason why I love this type of embedding. It's not just like an iframe. I just have a different Canvas app and it cannot interact, but it has a strong connection to the Power BI report and can really use it hand in hand. Okay, the next one. This one is the Power BI Power Automate visual. Same goes as before. This is a visual like any visual else. You can use it in your Power BI reports. It's also from Microsoft, but this one is still in preview. So there are a few limitations. But still, the ground idea or the base idea is here that you get a button and you can change the caption of the button however you want to. You see it here in the screenshot as Power Automate. And once you click on the button, it will trigger one of these cloud flows. And there basically you can do whatever you want to. But again, you get the same context as you get in the Power App. You also get here in the Power Automate visual. A few things you have to know at this point because it's still in preview. So you can't put any manual input. You only get the context from Power BI. And if you want to work with the Dataverse, it's not really supported to work with Dataverse environments yet because all the flows will be in your default environment, and that is not usually where your Dataverse environment is. But this is just something you have to be aware of. I'm sure as soon as it gets to general availability, all these limitations will be gone. Okay, let's look again at this picture of bringing these different components together. And this is basically also how I want to structure a demo later. So first step is I want to get data and I want to visualize that data in Power BI. So far, that's how you would build a classical Power BI report or dashboard. Now the new thing is that I use the Power Apps visual to embed a Power App within my report, and I'm giving the data context to the Power App. So the Power App actually knows what data is displayed in the Power BI report. And since it's using or can use the same data connectors, Dataverse, it can, for example, get extra data. Based on the context it has, it can also from completely other data sources can get extra data. But what's even cooler, it can also create new data then or update new data. Think about kind of like what we often have with our customers, for example, in sales. We have a sales report, we have the sales numbers for all the reps, and the sales manager and the sales rep are looking at the numbers, or the sales manager is looking through the numbers and says, well, I actually want to create some comments here, or I want to create a to-do for the sales rep, because this is what I kind of like noticed when I'm looking at the numbers. With a Power App, these kinds of use cases become possible. And the next thing, Power App, as I said, I kind of like probably won't talk about it a lot, but I think it makes sense in this embedding story to include it, is because I have two ways of basically embedding a Power Automate flow to my report. One would be I'm using the Power App, because in Power App natively I can start Power Automate flows. So I could use that one. With the new visual I was showing a slide before, you can also do it directly from Power BI. And I think there are a lot of cases where that actually solves the thing you want to solve, and you don't need to create a separate Power App just to trigger the flow. And then as soon as you have triggered the flow, then you have the full capabilities of the flow, which would be creating, updating data, working with data actions. So, well, actually you can do a lot with that. Yeah, this is basically, I know maybe it looks a bit I don't know. I hope it's not too confusing here on the slide or kind of like too much. But I actually wanted kind of like, and the way I put it here, that's how I want to structure a demo. And to have time for that, that would be basically what I would do next with you. Maybe a reminder here, please use the chat, the Q&A function. If I tend to speak quite fast, so if there were some things where you have more questions or which was not quite understandable, please put them in the chat and we will use the Q&A at the end to talk about them. With that being said, let me switch to my dynamics first, because I wanted to start here showing you kind of like what's the business case behind my demo case here. So basically what I did, I installed the Dynamics 365 sales demo, so the CRM by Microsoft. That's based on the Dataverse. And my case I wanted to show you today is we have a lot of sales reps working here in the CRM. They have their accounts, they're working with their accounts, they're managing their tasks, their activities here. And then I'm being the sales manager. I have a separate Power BI report where I want to see all the opportunity data, kind of want to see how is our pipeline looking, but I also want to interact with the sales reps. So the sales reps are working mainly here in Dynamics. They're working with the accounts, which we see here, and we also have the opportunities. So opportunities basically a potential sale. So we have a closing date, we have an estimated revenue, and we have connected the potential customer. And important on the customer, we have this timeline with all the activities which the sales reps use to structure their day. So that's basically a business setting here. What I also did as a preparation, I created a small Power BI data set and an empty report. Let me show that to you. Yeah. So basically, I have the account in here, I have the opportunity table in here, I have the system user, which is the sales rep table in here. And I hope you see why I didn't want to bore you with how I create this Power. This is basically just filtering out a few of the columns we have in our tables here. I also uploaded it here to our Dynamics Con 21 workspace. And if we jump in this report here, you see it's an empty report. And now I want to create the report I was just talking about. So I'm the sales manager looking at this report. What do I want to see at first glance? Well, my opportunities. I want to see what opportunities do we have in our pipeline, when are they closing, which customers are involved. There are multiple ways. I like the scatter chart, for example. Let's put that here prominently in. When I look at that, on my x-axis, I want to have let's put the closing date in here, but I only want to have the month, accurate by month. I want to have the customer name in here, basically as the legend. And I want to have the estimated value as size, and let's also put it here as y-axis. So basically, obviously, when you create an actual Power BI report, you would do a lot more here. What I want to do, I just want to have this simple one here, because later on, my goal is when I click on an opportunity here, for example, this one from Alpine Ski House, what I would like to see now is more details about this account. So my idea is that here I'll use the space here on the right-hand side to embed a Power App to show me more details of this Alpine Ski House, the selected account. And also I wanted to have an opportunity or a possibility to create to-dos task for my sales reps saying, well, please close this opportunity, or why is this opportunity not moving forward, stuff like that. Or I want to see, hey, is the sales rep actually working on that? So I don't have to remind him because he's already doing all that stuff. Okay, for that, until now, I just created this one visual here, I would say Power BI standard visual. But when we look at here, we have a lot more visuals. And one of them is these Power Apps for Power BI visual. And that's the one I'm actually adding here. And as I mentioned before, it's a visual like like all the others. So I can put it here, I can resize it however I want to. And let's put it as a companion bit here. And the nice thing about this visual is, I like how Microsoft has designed it here. It basically tells you what you have to do in order to get this visual to work. So basically it says, step 1, select the fields from your data set which you want to use in the Power App. And that's basically what we would do as a first step. As I said, the goal here is I want to see details about the accounts. So I'm not picking the fields from the opportunity table, but instead here I'm going to pick the account fields and I put them here to the Power Apps data field of the visual. I can put in one, but I can also put multiple fields in here. And you have to remember, these are the only fields which the Power App has access to in the end. So the Power App has not access to all data in the Power BI report, but only the ones we select here, and only the ones within the current filters. But we will see that in a bit. Okay, you see, once I put in the fields here, it changed the screen and it is asking me, do you want to use an existing app or do you want to create a new one? I want to create a new one, but when you work with Power Apps, and this is a difference to Power BI, you have to think about the environment you work in. So Power BI is always at the tenant level. Power Apps is always in one environment in this tenant. For example, here you see I have a lot of environments in my tenant. I want to use the sales trial. That's the one where basically here my dynamics is running, and I want to have the Canvas app in the same one. Okay, if I click on Create New, in the back end, the new Canvas app is being created for me. And the most important part, it's already linked to my Power BI report. I will show you how that looks like. But this is the important part, basically, which makes this integration story work, is that you have this link to Power BI. Otherwise, it would be just a static Canvas app, which might be nice for some use cases, but for most use cases, you need this link. Okay, when we look here at what did the, let's say, basic default template created, it created one gallery here. And with the items, I have Power BI integration.data. And I have 5 different records apparently in here. The Power BI integration here, this is a control you see here on the left-hand side. And you only get this one if you create the Canvas app from Power BI. And this is the one where we have access to the data we select in Power BI. How does it work? Basically, you can think of this data here as like an array. So there are multiple records. Depending on the filters in Power BI, there can be 0, 1, or multiple records in it. We see that here. When I look at this gallery here, a gallery in Power Apps works like a repeater. So when I click on Edit here, you see I can only edit the first element. But when I do changes to the first element, basically the changes are propagated to each element here. For example, this arrow. I don't need this arrow, and this is a bit too big here. So I'm changing the font or the size, and you see that's automatic for all the items done here. And the text being displayed, it's always this item. So this item means the current element in my array. And the account ID was one of the fields I selected in Power BI, but I also have the city and the name here. For example, if I select name, you see, oh, I have all my account names in here. And basically, these were exactly the fields which we had here in our Power Apps data. So that's why I said, you can only access these fields here, and you can only access all the records which are filtered in Power BI. I will show you how the filtering looks like in a second. Well, here in Power Apps, you can basically work with Power Apps as you like. For example, I want to have a second field in here because we already also have the city. Let's use it. Yeah, this city. And can kind of like save a bit of real estate in our app. What you have to do, and basically Power BI is telling you so, what we have to do is save the app and publish it. One thing I would recommend you to do is when you go here to settings in the Power App Maker experiences, here under display, by default, it created a portrait. So we have portrait app, kind of like a phone factor. You can also create a landscape app. For my report at the moment, the portrait app is the one I want to have, but it might be in another case, depending on your report. So this is where you can define how the Power App is reacting, and also the scale to fit and lock aspect ratio. Those are important controls, controlling how it will look like in Power BI. I would recommend start with turning them on, or think about what it does. But for my case here, I will turn them off, because otherwise I will have some white screen in there and it's not really fitting there. Or it's for the scale to available space actually can create some kind of ugly looking apps. But play around a bit with these. I think it's best to see the effects if you just turn it on and off. Okay, with that, let's save the app. Dynamics Con Next Level BI. I'm going to save it. When I first save it, it automatically also gets published. So when I jump back to my report, you see Power BI got notified that I created the app, that it's created and that it's published, and it will directly load it so that we can see the effect here. Okay, let's put it here. So I have my accounts in here. You see, I should probably make this font a bit bigger again. But what I want to show you here first is now it has all the accounts. Basically, all the accounts I have loaded in my Power BI report are shown here. Why is that? Because at the moment I have no filters here on my Power BI report. That meaning all the data from the account, which I selected here as data fields for the Power App, are shown there. If I now select here one of these opportunities, the one for Tray Research, actually now only Tray Research account is shown. Why? Because based on the data model I have in my Power BI report, when I click here on opportunity, it filters the account table. So if I click on another one, you see FragRecam is showing. Or if I click on all, I see all again. If I click on multiple ones, you see here I have multiple entries in my gallery. And this is a really important thing to know. When you design your Power App, think about how many records you will have there. And it can be, as I said, 0, it can be multiple, it can be many. This is something you have to think about in your Power App. For my use case, I'm making an assumption, but that's only an assumption for this use case, that the sales manager is looking opportunity by opportunity, so that I'm only ever have one account selected here. And this is how I will design my Power App. But for other use cases, it might be that might be a wrong way to do it. And actually, you want to have multiple records selected here. But it's just something you have to think about. And I think you see it quickly with this really simple app, kind of like what data is actually being displayed there or not. Okay. Basically, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to save this Power BI report, and I close it for now. Because the great thing about this type of embedding Power App is now I can do all changes here in my Power App, and I don't have to go back to the Power BI report. Well, depending if I want to change something in Power BI, but if I just want to make changes in the Power App, I can do that directly here. Okay, then let's start. So what do I want to do? As I said, basically what I want to do is I only want to have one account here at a time. This is, as I said, an assumption. So what will I do? First step, I will rename this gallery here to gallery accounts to make it a bit more clear what it is. So what I want to do is I want to query the Dataverse and say, give me the whole account. So all account fields for the first account I have in my Power BI filters. So normally that should be only one if the user is doing it like my assumption says. And to be able to query the Dataverse table, what I need to do here on the left-hand side on data sources, I actually have to add the account table as a data source. That way I can interact with the accounts in the Dataverse. And if I put it back in here, what I will do here is I do a lookup on the account entity saying, give me the account where the account name is the same as the first element in my Power BI integration.data array. So I'm picking the first array, the first record from all the filtered records. Usually that should be only one. That's why I'm making this assumption here. Okay, what we can do here, we said before we want to make it bigger. Let's do that. Make it more readable. And oh yeah, Power Apps is complaining because now it says, well, city is not available anymore. City was the field which was in the data I got from Power BI. Now the data source is actually Dataverse. And if I click on this item dot, make the dot, I have the intelligence. And you remember before that, I only had this 3 options: name, city, account ID, basically what I had selected in Power BI. But now that I have actually queried the Dataverse, I can access all the different fields I have in the account table. So for example, the city. I want to display the city here. Let's make it a bit bigger again. Yeah, I can spend a lot of time designing Power Apps. But well, until now, I haven't really changed a lot. What I really wanted to do is I wanted to add more details. Details which were not in my Power BI data set, but I wanted to display. For that, let's put in a header here. Smaller. I want to have account details. By the way, using these emojis in Power Apps, a quick way of having at least some graphical elements in there. And then I will add a new label here. I will decrease the font a bit, the size a bit. And now I want to have the data from the account which is selected up here. So basically, I have the gallery. There's one item in there, one account in there, and I want to access also these fields. So what I can do there is, basically, oh, sorry, I made one mistake. Let me quickly fix that. So what we can do here, we will increase our gallery like this. And I will, again, put in my label here for the details. So basically, what I'm doing now, I'm still in my gallery. I'm adding here the header. Next thing I'm adding is a new field because I want to use more fields, which are basically not included there. For example, I want to use the telephone number. So this item dot main phone, and I have my telephone number of the account in here. Decrease it again. And maybe I also want to have the website in here. And I can quickly do that. So this is what I was saying, basically, when you quickly want to have additional fields which are not in your Power BI dataset for good reasons, you can use Power App to get those additional information. For example, that it's not just working with text or number fields. You can also, for example, here, the default image, you can also put this one in here, which is, I think, quite nice. So this is add additional information. The next thing I want to do is I want to actually add more or have a potential to create new data, to add new data like comments or tasks. I was mentioning that I actually want to be able, as a sales manager, to create to-dos or tasks for my salespeople. So I will put in a new header here, create a task. And for a task, I need a text input because I need to put in the description of the task. I will make this a multi-line, smaller, does not need to have default. And I want to have a button to actually do the creation of the task. Save. Again here, also if I want to create new data or update new data, I have on the left-hand side, again, I need to select the data source where I want to do that. And here I'm also using the Microsoft Dataverse, the task table. Okay, and what happens when I click on that? I'm actually going to go copy paste again. The on select, this is the this event happens when I click on the button. And what does it do? It will patch. Patch is a function in Power Apps for updating or creating data. It will patch the source, the task table, and it will not use an existing record. Instead, defaults, it will create a new record with all the default fields already populated. And then here I can define which fields do I specifically want to set. And tasks have a subject, they have a description, and they are linked to a customer. So my subject is actually a fixed text here, task to do from Power BI. The description is the one I put here in this text input. I want to use that as a description. And regarding, that's the linked customer. I can also put in here this item. Oh, no, there was a this is the gallery accounts selected. Remember, gallery accounts, this is the one where I'm working on at the moment. And that was the one, so where I'm working on that, I'm working on Alpine Ski House. And when I click here on the save, I want this gallery, this Alpine Ski House to be selected. So that's gallery account selected. That's the one which will be linked with this task. Okay, one more thing we have to do here. I go on the gallery. Let's make this one bigger again. Obviously, I don't want to just create tasks, but I also want to see which tasks are already created. So maybe I don't need to create a new one. So I want to have some kind of timeline in here. And for that, what I can do is I can create a new gallery. So I can actually also I can put fields in here, but I also can put in a whole gallery of data, of connected data. And the nice thing here, what I like about the Dataverse a lot, is that I can work with all the relationships in the Dataverse. So let me show you what that means. If I go on this item, remember this item is the account, the currently selected account. And if I click on dot, before I could select all the fields, but I actually can also select all the relationships. So if I click on this item task, this one is basically all the tasks related to the current selected account, being this Alpine ski house. And I can use this as the data source for my timeline here. Okay, let's put something in here. I want to have a label. And again, I can work with this item. This time, this item is actually not the account, but it's a task, because that was the data source I selected for this gallery. And I want the subject here. Yeah, and we see for this one, there are already some, apparently when I was testing, I created some to-dos here. So I have a subject, let's make this bold. And I want to have a new label with the description. Again, this item dot description. Okay, show what is subject. But okay, looking at the time, let's check it out in Power BI. So when I want to do that, I always remember to have to save this and you have to publish it. And when I was playing around, sometimes you have to wait a bit till Power BI gets notified or knows, okay, there's a change. Or it might be something with my cache. So let's check. And okay, this looks good. Because at the moment I don't have anything selected here. But also if I select something, it is not working. Well, now you see it's a live demo, but actually sometimes I had this problem as well. So basically that it would not really load data. What was helpful, kind of like just to refresh the page, the report. In some cases, I also had to delete the cache when I was doing changes in Power Apps. But usually, like here, when you change or reload your report, it should work. And as you see here, we have the updated ones. And you see, still, if I click here on one of the records, it updates here. I see which to-dos, which tasks are already created for this. And let's check it out for trail. Check on opportunity. Save this one. And it created a task here. Let's double check also here. I was creating that for trail research. And you see here, the task also got created here. And remember, this is what I wanted to achieve because I, as a sales manager, I work mainly here in Power BI. My sales rep, they work mainly here in Dynamics. So this is where they should be able to see the task. Okay, and now looking at the time, let us do a recap. So what did we do? We created a new Power BI report. We have some, let's say, more classical Power BI visualizations in there. But then we embedded a Power App. And we use this Power App to have a context awareness. So it knows which data is selected here. It shows me additional details, which I do not have in my Power BI data set. In this case, only from the same data source, but it could also use it to get data from different data sources. For example, like connected SharePoint files, or there is a SQL server next to it where data is stored inside. I also have a chance to see related data. And this time the timeline with all the related tasks. And I have a capability of actually creating new data linked to the data I have here in my Power BI report. And I think this is quite powerful, and I hope you think so too. And I also hope that you can see I'm pretty excited about what you can build with these kind of things. Obviously, this is like a really simple thing and definitely not a good looking one. But I hope they get the get the feeling, what can you do with that? And again, we will have a Q&A in a few minutes if I look at my watch. So please put in the chat. As I said, feedback, but also ideas. Maybe if you have some ideas in your head and you're going, hey, is this something we could do this way or not? I would love to hear about it. I would definitely love to get in contact, brainstorm what else can we do with these capabilities. because as I said, this is what I feel the Power Platform enables us to do, or gives us this huge tool set. And we can use it now to combine these to create really awesome user customer experiences. And I'm pretty excited about this and what we can build with that. I hope you are too, and see you in the Q&A. Goodbye. Hey everybody, Mats here. Thanks a lot. I saw a lot of engagement already in the chat, and I really want to say thanks for everybody who listened in, and especially people put in the chat. I can say as a speaker, that's kind of like always the fear you have. Okay, nobody's watching and nobody's interacting with you. So thanks a lot for all of you. And yeah, there were already some questions. I would just pick them up and go through them. If you have additional questions, or as I said, any feedback, kind of like, or something which got your mind thinking, well, is this a use case which could be used by that? Still put it in chat. I think we have like 6 or 7 minutes to go through that. So let's do that. So first question was, so I was showing the way of, we have a Power BI report and we're embedding a Canvas app. And Savannah was asking, okay, is it also possible the other way, and how easy it is? And yeah, if you have just a Canvas app, well, not just, if you have a Canvas app, you can also embed the Power BI tiles directly in it, so kind of like the other way around. And I think actually that feature has been around for a bit longer. I think it's a bit more mature. It works quite great. You can also filter the Power BI tile, so you can do a lot with that. So definitely try it out. It's also a great puzzle piece to this integration part, I think. The next one was, could we use the Dataverse connector to get more information from Keith? And yeah, good question, because I think 1 minute later I was showing that. And it's really awesome, because if you think about your Power BI data set, you don't want to have all the information in your Power BI data set. It will get too huge. And also there's probably a lot of, like, if you think about multi-line text fields or images, those information shouldn't be really in your Power BI data set for performance reasons, but also for size reasons. So this is, I think, actually a great way to get these additional information in your Power BI report. And also don't just think Dataverse, because you can use all the connectors you have in Power Apps. I think nowadays we are around 400 or something. So you can use it a lot. For example, we built for one customer like a SharePoint integration. So they had data on SharePoint. So we embedded that in the Power BI report. For another customer, they had data for their campaigns. So they were tracking campaign performance in Power BI, and we built a Power App connecting to their campaign system to where they actually could interact with that data. So yes, try out the connectors. So Power BI Power Apps is great for different kind of visualizations, but also getting different data in there, and really important, also writing back to the data sources. So not just consuming the data. Yeah, Chad, I think you were asking in a similar direction with the custom controls for Power Apps, if we could build something like that. And yeah, I think this is a huge opportunity. If you think about Power Apps, Canvas apps, you have these so-called component libraries. So build components which are built to be reused. And there's actually a huge community around that. And you can build your Power Apps components to reuse them in a lot of different apps. You could also use the PCFs, the Power Apps control framework. So where people build JavaScript controls, you can use them in Canvas app as well. And you could use them in a Power App, which you use in a Power BI. So you see, I think there were also some comments on that. The Power Platform, it's really getting more and more connected with each month. I love that, because it enables us to pick exactly the tool we need for the right job and bring them all together and really creating awesome user experiences. And I hope what you also saw on the demo, actually demo gods, I think, were quite good to me this time. It's a really similar maker experience. So if you're used to the Power BI making, it's not completely different when you go to Power Apps. So it's actually, of course, you have to learn a bit new stuff, but it's really easy to get into. Of course, always there's this hard to master part, but getting into it, I think you should definitely take a look at that. Okay, I think those were the questions during the session. Let's check. There was some more comments from Ramin. Could create a Canvas app in Power BI. So the question is, the Power BI to model. So the Power BI to model driven. I mean, I'm not sure if it's a question if you could integrate the Power BI directly to the model driven app and integrate with that. So what you can do, I think, at the moment is, if you start with a model driven app, you can embed a Power BI report directly, for example, on a form. You can also filter that one. At the moment, you cannot embed the model-driven app directly in the Power BI report. Well, I would guess, or if I would have to guess, I would say that this will be coming at some point. But at the current state of the visual, we can only embed the Canvas app directly in Power BI. Yeah, Heidi was also asking about this. Yeah, at the moment, only Canvas apps. I'm actually not sure if maybe you could play around with an iframe kind of thing, but if you want to stick with the native supportive ways, at the moment, it's a Canvas app. Which, as I said in the presentation, I feel like it also fits the way Power BI is visualizing stuff quite well. Because with model-driven apps, you have the really structured way, which is awesome in a lot of cases. But for Power BI, often it might be better to use the Canvas app there. Oh yeah, Chat, great example here. Chat is talking about a use case he's doing, where he uses the Power Apps embedded in Power BI to take notes. And I think this is really great example, especially of this writing data back to the source. And as I said, similar to the case I had here, we have a lot of cases where it's actually people interacting with each other. I think, but somebody put it in here, kind of like the great thing about Power Platform is that different people might work with different tools, but the Power Platform actually enables us to work together, even if we're in multiple tools. So my manager's in Power BI, I am Power Apps, but we can still communicate because these tools are integrated. And not just integrate because the shared database, but even the visuals get more and more integrated here. Oh yeah, Jim is saying a quick view form, if you talk about model-driven apps, would be awesome. And I think you can build something like a quick view form with Canvas apps, but you can't reuse them per se. But I feel you that might make it even easier later on if we could reuse forms and views we have defined in a model-driven app. Okay, Chat, I like how you think, Chat. So Chat is asking, can you embed a Canvas app in a Power BI report, which is embedded in a model-driven app? Or the other way around, a Power BI in a Canvas app in a model-driven app? And the question is yes. You can actually build kind of like really these Inception-like integrations. There might be kind of like, from a use case, something like too many, but technically it's possible. So you can integrate these together. For example, in one other demo I did, what I did is I integrated a Canvas app in my model-driven app. And the Canvas app basically was like a report selector. So I had an entity where I would put in the URLs of the different reports. The Canvas app would have a Power BI tile, which would dynamically use this link to display the Power BI there. So I had a model-driven app, a Canvas app, and a Power BI or multiple Power BI reports in there. Yes, custom page engine. That's a great thing. At the moment, though, one limitations, at the moment, we can't use the Power BI tile on custom pages yet. So if we talk about the integration of Power BI in custom pages, but I think that will come, I hope. I mean, I'm not sure, but it makes a lot of sense to go that direction. So I'm sure there will be support for that soon. Okay, I think we have only one more minute left, and I feel like I answered all the questions. If you have any more questions, please reach out to me. You can reach me on LinkedIn, on Twitter. I will put in my connection details in the chat. Thank you all for watching, and thank you all for all your questions and suggestions or kind of comments you had. And yeah, I hope we can start building together. And if you have new ideas, please get in contact, share them with the community. That's also a great thing here. So thanks to Dynamics Count team, all the organizers, all the support we had, so that we can use this session here to talk about it. I'm really happy to be here and wish you, I think it was the first session today, so there will be a lot more sessions. Have fun with those and have a great conference. With that, have a good day.